Hi, I'm old Sneelock, and this is my shop. Most of you have been here before, and if you haven't, this is it. I'm working here on the toolbox, AC Granger's toolbox. I've got a job that I need to do on it, and I thought while I was doing that, I might just talk a little bit. One of the things that I need to do is get the camera going. Hang on just a minute, I'll be right back. This is something you don't often get to see. Me trying to set things up to run and having to go through all the malarkey to make it work. Quite often the channel is just just me making things happen. Like right now I'm making the batteries changed out. One of the things that really annoys me about battery operated devices is dead batteries. And I originally started out buying Canon batteries because it was a Canon camera, but they were $89 a piece. And that was too much money for most of us to be able to handle. Then I bought knockoff batteries. Now, knockoff batteries are just as good as you'd expect. I was able to afford them, but they only lasted just a short time. Now, the batteries aren't working. I think I've got a camera issue. Let's see. What do I have to do to make this thing go? Got the camera set. There we go. Now we got a camera working. Could not tell you why we have a camera working, but we have a camera working. Okay, now I can turn you out of the lights so that they're not glaring in your eyes. Get the screwdriver from hanging over in front of the lens. Just for curiosity's sake, I'm hanging the camera off of the drill, the hand drill, the egg beater rack, using a cheap knockoff. Everything that I've got is practically a knockoff, except for these antique tools. The antique tools are actually originals. But this is a knockoff tripod that I got at Walmart. Put it back up there. Now see, a lot of this stuff would be edited out if I was just running a video. I'd just take and clip it out. It wouldn't be there. So now I've got the camera running. And I can start actually doing the work. I'm going to be putting the hinges, these things, onto this toolbox lid. And what that amounts to, here, I'll tip you down so you can see. I've got the painted screws. Stand on this side so the camera can see me while I'm talking to you guys. Now I have them fastened down securely. I need to go through and drill some holes. To make that work, I'm going to be using this countersink drill bit. Now this is a really inexpensive countersink drill bit, but it works quite well. Lets me run the screw down in. It countersinks the hole at the same time. Oops, didn't have the chuck tightened up. Another thing that would have gotten edited out. What I really wanted to talk to you guys about was what I'm doing, and not just the hinge, although the hinge is an interesting part. That really can be part of another video. The major question concerning that is, will I be around for you guys to see the video of me putting these hinges in? Now, I expect to be here until the end of December. This Yankee screwdriver doesn't have a return spring in it, so the Archimedes screw extends on its own. This one has got the spring in it. So it does something that is kind of unique. It lets me run a screw in one-handed. Now, admittedly, I'm out of practice. Definitely out of practice. Okay, back to what we were talking about. Old Sneelock's workshop has been around for 12 years. The first video was actually shot in 2006, but I didn't monetize until 2012, February of 2012. So the records from AdSense and analytics are truncated. There's nothing there prior to. So I can't tell you what was really going on at that time. I know I had about 30 subscribers the first 3 months. I was more than happy to just have 30 subscribers. Wasn't worried about money. I wasn't worried about how many viewers I had. I thought that there were 30 subscribers. Who in the world wanted to watch me sharpen auger bits? Because really that's what I did. The first 6 videos are about sharpening auger bits. Regular old Irwin type auger bits. And then I switched over and did some barn auger bits. And I greatly enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing it. And evidently people thought it was pretty cool because over time I got more and more people interested in what I was doing. And I started a Facebook page, mostly because my wife had a Facebook page and said I probably should have one. She's the business brains of the organization. She's got the marketing degree, and I have a few years at a community college. Well, anyways, I started doing the advertiser thing. Now, in 2006, I was working for a company called Product Action. And Product Action had me driving around the countryside running crews. And the crews sorted parts. That's what we did. It was a really, I don't know, it was a pretty good company. There were some issues with them. Every company that you leave has issues that you'd rather not have dealt with. But, you know, at the time, they paid the bills and made sure that I had food on the table. And that's really what it was all about. Kept me in peanut butter, so to speak. I didn't even think about YouTube as being a source of income. Money never entered into it. It was always just about the fun of doing the jobs and having people talk. We had comments. Yeah, people commented on what I did and asked questions, and I gave answers, and sometimes good, sometimes not so good. I always thought that they were the best that I could do at the time. It's pretty much a given, isn't it? You're not going to do the worst you could do at the time. At least I hope not. So anyways, that was the whole point and purpose of the channel, was to disseminate information. Well, then AdSense started paying a little money. In 2012, I made, what was it, $30 in the whole year. Couldn't get a check because you had to have accumulated your first $100. $100 was the cutoff. If you weren't going to make $100, they weren't going to pay you. So when I finally got my $100, I went to the bank and I opened an account because they needed to have an account to send the money to. And because I'm not a very trusting person, I decided that the best thing to do is to isolate anything I owned from the control of Google or any organization involved with Google. Not impressed with the company, not impressed with their business plan, just not impressed with them at all. So, set up a checking account so that they could send me a check, and I got my first check. That year I made, I think, $300. That would have been 2013. Yeah, auspicious year, isn't it? So anyways, I took that $300 and I took my wife out to dinner first because she put up with all the crap that I was doing. I can be single-minded, somewhat focused on what I'm doing. So I was very interested in making videos. As time went on, I made more money. Never have made a ton of money. The most money I've made was last year was $2,500. And that was almost equivalent to all the money that I made prior to. So, not making a ton of money off of this, but I was actually looking at it as being, well, maybe it really is a business. You know, I had to pay taxes on this stuff. I got a 1099 every year. I had an accountant. The first 2 years' profits went up in paying the accountant to do the taxes because I had a small business. Yeah, good afternoon. I learned to like Yankee screwdrivers because I used them at a place called Home Builders Incorporated. And the big thing that we used them for there was running in those long screws that mount receptacles into junction boxes. With this thing, prior to having battery operated drills, there just weren't any. With this, I could run that screw in big time. Also worked really good for mounting lights and ceilings. That worked out quite well. Well, anyways, YouTube paid, but most of it was just taken up in the operation of the channel. And it was interesting. I've owned businesses before, and usually I had to have somebody else that ran the accounting department, and this is the first time I actually got to do everything on my own. I very strictly made it so that it was me. I'm not an LLC. I'm not anything else. I'm just a single proprietor, and anything happening was either my fault or it didn't get done. So the money went back into the business, so to speak. Really, the costs involved in running the business ate up all the profits. But that's okay. It was a break even. I was ecstatic. It was a break even. The first 10 years, it was a net loss. I mean, I wasn't making diddly squat on the thing I was paying. I still tried to maintain the $10 a year or $10 a week budget for the channel. Hi, Tractor Man. Glad you could stop by for a minute. Anyways, when the thing started paying for itself and I was able to yeah, they do work a little better with Phillips head screwdrivers or Phillips head screws. Any powered any kind of power device works better with a Phillips head screw. That's what they were made for. Robertson is better. Those square drives, they don't slip, they don't pop out, they don't do anything. They just run. Phillips screws, in my estimation, are a good device for going in. They suck at coming out because most of the time the darn thing strips out. You can only put them in once. Once you've driven it in, if you take it back out and try and put it back in again, Phillips head's gone. It's just not worth it. And yeah, I just agreed with you. The Robertsons are the best. I like them. I have Robertson screwdrivers and Robertson screw heads on some of the screws too. If I can find them, I get them. On this, I'm going with the straight bits, screwdriver bits, or screwdriver heads, because I want to keep it somewhat current with the year it was made. And this thing's been revised so many times. Couldn't tell you exactly when the last one was. Well, other than this year, I'm doing a revision to it myself. But I'm trying to keep the thing going with the same feel for the toolbox. I've got one hinge mounted over here. I've got to mount this hinge. So I'm going to be doing that for a second. Let's see. I got to drill a couple of holes. I like these egg beater drills. Took a while to figure out how to make them work, and I still have problems with them. And I'm sorry guys if you're commenting. I'm not always seeing it because I'm looking at where I'm putting the hole in the toolbox. And the only thing I have going right now is just the cell phone. So if I don't see your comment, I don't know that you did. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just busy doing other things. Bigger screwdriver does a little better job on these screws. Now I'm going to take you on an excursion down to the storeroom because I need another screw. Don't be shocked, it's a mess. It is a complete and utter chaotic mess. Can hardly find anything in here. Everything's buried. I've got more saws than I can shake a stick at. I got saws hanging in the corner, saws hanging there, saws hanging over here on the shelf, more saws down there underneath. I even got a saw in a box here. That's a one-man crosscut saw. Really does restrict my ability to edit. But that's okay. I think you guys can tolerate that. Oh, I gotta grab a different screw. That one was not the right one. Here we go. Back and forth, back and forth. That's the problem when you don't have an apprentice. I could blame the apprentice if I had an apprentice. It's just my fault now. Sole proprietor. That's me. Okay. Well, we'll get back to the reason for the live stream. I wanted to ask you. I expect to close the channel down right around the 31st of December. I'm not going to completely delete everything. I think, not a lawyer, don't know for sure, and haven't got anybody that can actually tell me. I've called the FTC. I got real big help there. They said, we can't give you any legal advice. I wasn't asking for legal advice. I wanted them to tell me what their law was, their regulation. They don't make laws, they make regulations. Uh, Laws I could vote on. Regulations, I can't vote on because it's a thing that they do, and therefore I have no control over what they do. Yeah, you're right. It's a screw with a square socket. Well, I was going to grab one off the rack over there, but I don't see one right now. Yeah, Kumak, it's not anything that I wanted to do, but I think it's the only way that I can protect myself and my family from overreaching government. In the United States, we have a representative form of government. That means that I supposedly elect people who manage the government for me, and they don't come around and ask me every day, hey, what should we do? No, I trust them to do the right thing. Now, sometimes that's a mistake. One of the worst things that we've ever done is put lawyers in charge of making laws. When I put lawyers in charge of making laws, that meant that they could make laws any way they wanted. And most of the time it works out okay. Well, not really. I'm lying to you. Most of the time it sucks. Most of the time the laws that they make are unwieldy, overly complicated, and ridiculous to the point that we shouldn't allow them to do that. I mean, really. When somebody sets up a regulatory agency that is supposed to take care of federal trade, that's interstate trade, trade between states. You can put in all the disclaimers that you want. Lawyers live and breathe the law, and they also know language. And there are a great many ways to twist things. Me putting a disclaimer in saying, hey, this is only for educational purposes, really doesn't address the issue that they went after. They went after a weak spot. They said it's to protect the children. Now, I have kids, and Lord knows I want to protect them. I don't want to have anybody doing anything to those children, and they damn well better not if I can see them. If they're anywhere within reach, it's going to be a bad day for both of us because I'm going to have sore hands and they're going to be sore. So, be that as it may, I get a little intense when it comes to taking care of my kids, as everyone should be. But they said, well, we have to protect the kids. How do they protect the kids? Yeah, YouTube is transferring the cost of their sins to the creators. It's what every corporation does. Yeah, I always think it's funny. I was in the corporate world for 40 years. I started out working for a foundry, and my dad was secretary of the union, so I got to see the union side of things pretty closely. From the time I was, 11, up until I was 21, Dad was secretary of the union. So I helped run off the mimeographs because, something my dad was doing, and I was always interested in what Dad was doing and wanted to help. And I typed up minutes, too. Supposed to be secret stuff. Later on, when I started working at the foundry, I got initiated into the union, and I learned the secret password, which, since the union is no longer in business, I can say what the password is without running the risk of being excommunicated, although I was off the union rolls many, many years ago. When I went to my first meeting, Elmer Weller was the sergeant at arms, and he said, "Do you know the password?" And I said, "No." Well, it was our first contract that I was involved in anyways. I had been working there 2 years, and they were going to go on strike, and they were talking about whether they were going to go on strike or not. So Elmer said, all right, me and 4 other guys that were new to coming to the union meetings had to go upstairs, and Elmer Weller whispered in my ear the secret password: promote. Yeah, PROMOTE, promote. Now, if you ever get a chance to go to an AFL-CIO meeting at the local 118 at Midwest Foundry, I think the building's long since gone, and I know the union is long since gone. They closed the place in '86. Then if you say that password, if Elmer Weller's still around, he'll let you in. Word to the wise. Don't piss him off. Elmer could pick me up with one hand. You always were really nice to Elmer. Anyways, corporate. In 1981, I started working at the United Technologies as my first supervisory position, and it turns out I became a manager. Odd set of circumstances. We won't go into that long explanation now, but I got involved in a lot of corporate situations. Became the environmental coordinator and had the joy and pleasure of working with the EPA, and also had to work with MIOSHA. And it was interesting because those guys were just new. MIOSHA had been around about 4 years when I started there. Well, maybe, no, I guess they were around about 10 years when I started working there. And EPA was just really getting going in 1975 while I was working at Borg Warner. So they were still learning what they could do and what they couldn't do. And they were learning about regulations. See, I'm getting around to the point of the story, right? Regulations. The law created MIOSHA and the law created EPA. But then they gave them the right to create rules, regulations. I don't get to vote on the regulations. I get to vote on whether there's a MIOSHA. I get to vote on whether there's an EPA. I say I do, but I can stand on the street corner with a placard and wave it around saying I like or I don't like all I want. About the same thing as voting for either one of those guys. Too much money involved. Too many people's cousins, brothers, uncles, nieces, and nephews working there to ever shut the thing down because, man, every, what do you want to call him? Tin pot potentate who thinks he's in charge of the world, got his own little alphabet soup agency. Yeah, that's those guys. So the FTC is cut from the same mold. I don't want Ronnie, I'm not blaming democracy. We don't have a democracy. We have a representative democracy. Totally different. One man, one vote. Now, that only works back in the old days when you had the tree hut and you had the women haters club. Yeah, then it was one guy, one vote. Other than that, hasn't been the same since. Now I get to elect somebody who speaks for me. So it's not my vote. My vote only carries enough weight to say that if I donate a lot of money, then I might get the ear of somebody and say, you know what, I'll give you more money if you do something for me. That's really what the whole thing's about. So, anyways, not blaming democracy. Democracy worked really good in Greece. At least they thought it did. Of course, women weren't involved in it, and slaves weren't involved in it. And So if you were a landowner or somebody who was rich, wait a minute, that's kind of like the representative democracy, isn't it? So maybe democracy has been something that we've talked about a lot, but probably never seen. Think so? Yeah. Two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Very, very true, Crafted. Uh, even if it's two sheep, I think the vote's going to go one way. So the FTC has decided that to protect the children, here we go, that's an easy way to get a vote. They're going to set up a deal where I can't have any information on the children that watch the channel. Well, congratulations, boys. That's already been done. I don't get any information on them now to start with. And anybody who's got a YouTube channel, yeah, even you guys that just watch, you have a YouTube channel. Your channel, even though you don't have videos, you're just like that close to the position I'm in. All you'd have to do is turn on the phone, put up a 2-second video doing anything. And now you're a creator. And that's where the rub is. See, as a creator, they say that I'm in charge of making sure that all the things that I do are up to snuff. Remember I told you I worked with the EPA and MIOSHA? When I first started with EPA, big thing was PCBs. Somebody had dumped a bunch of PCB, polychlorinated biphenyl, into cow feed. And supposedly it caused all kinds of problems for the cows. I never had it proved to me. They killed the cows to make sure that none of the PCBs got into the food, into the food stocks going out to the world. Probably the right thing to do. At this point, it's a little late to say anything about it. It was already done long, long ago. But PCBs were a big thing. EPA said, okay, no more PCBs anywhere. The United States can't have PCBs. Well, PCBs were in everything. They made oil non-flammable. United Technologies, where I was working, had 3 huge aluminum extrusion presses. Aluminum extrusion presses are like giant bottle jacks laying on their side. And you heat up this billet of aluminum that any size that you want to make it. The biggest one that we had was 8 inches in diameter, about that big around, and about 25 inches long. And with that, we could extrude a screen door frame, a piece of aluminum that you made into screen door frames, about 100 feet long. It's a 1,600-ton press. But there was a problem with it. It was hydraulic. Hydraulic presses around a billet that you heat up to just about 950 degrees before you put it in the container. There's a container that was heated to 900 degrees. You heated the billet. You put it inside the container. You ran a ram up against it. It was on the end of the big bottle jack laying on its side. Then, like the old Play-Doh factory, you squirted it out the end. That aluminum had to be really hot, way up above the flash point of oil. So PCBs made it so that oil didn't flash. It was really important that it didn't flash because the press had 2 pumps on it. Each one put out 100 gallons a minute. That's a lot of oil. That's 2 barrels every minute. So the press was putting out 4 barrels every minute, and it held 40 barrels of oil in the main tank because it had to push this big bottle jack. I could walk into the bottle jack. It was that big around. I mean, it was huge. So, anyways, they made it so that you couldn't have PCBs in anything. But it had been around a long time. And presses leak. They crack lines, and the lines spray all over the place. They get on the floor, they get on the walls, they get on everything. And one of the things that they did, let's see, Yeah, creator, not collector. We can argue that. I don't think I have enough letters after my name to make it so that I can say, yeah, I'm a lawyer, can argue that point on a court in a court of law. I haven't passed the bar. Anyways, the PCBs got in that oil and got spread all over the ground and got into the floor and into the walls and into the grass outside. And because we had all these oil leaks, they put a pond out back to capture the runoff water and oil. And the water and oil seeped into the ground. So the EPA came in before I started working there, about 2 years before I started working there. And they said, you got to clean up this mess. I told United Technologies that. Well, United Technologies bought it from the Essex Group. And the Essex Group was really not very careful with what they did. So they had this huge field out back that was just covered with oily dirt, just filled with it. So the old guy that, Navy retiree, who was the head of the maintenance department before I started there, hired a contractor to come in and dig out all the dirt. So he dug out all the dirt, piled it all up, and the EPA came and said, yep, you got it all. And they said, well, what do we do with it? Well, it was piled on a huge pile over here, sitting on a bed of clay. Exposed to the air, exposed to the atmosphere, exposed to the rain, everything. And they said, well, I'll get back to you. Well, in the 9 years that I was there, they never got back to us. And the pile of dirt sat there. The guy left 2 years prior to me starting there, and the dirt stayed there from that time until 1990 when I left. So for 12 years, that pile of dirt sat there and was washed into the ground and went everywhere. So I don't think it's ever been taken care of. It had trees growing on it when I started. I mean, trees this big around. So that's the EPA. And my OSHA had done similar things, and I don't have actual for instances of where my OSHA screwed up big time because they were a little better about hiding it by the time they got to me. But that always impressed me that here's this huge government organization full of college kids. I always said it was college kids because it was guys my age, and I was 20, 25 when I started there. I guess I was 30 when I started there, young fella. But it was college kids that came in with the EPA and my OSHA, and they had their clipboard, and they had their hard hat, and they had their safety shoes, and their glasses, and all the other PPE, personal protective equipment, and told us exactly how we were supposed to do things. And over time, I realized that they had no idea what they were doing, and probably never would have any idea what they were doing. So as time went on, I got less and less impressed with the abilities of my government to take care of anything. So now, here I am up against another alphabet soup company, corporation. Not really a corporation, it's a regulatory agency. I got to keep saying that, so I got it right. And this time they're coming over and saying, okay, we want you to dig up your backyard, pile up all the dirt, and then wait for us to tell you what to do. That's pretty much the answer that I'm getting from them. I called the FTC and I said, I'm really concerned. I have a YouTube channel. And she said, in broken English, YouTube? And I thought, oh man, this is going to suck. So I spent the next 10 minutes trying to get the understanding across to her what I really wanted to know. She told me how I could protect my own information, I think. because I couldn't understand half what she said. Part of that I'll blame myself. I can't hear very well, and her English was, well, she'd fit right in Guatemala really well. So anyways, by the time I got done, I was pretty sure I was screwed. Yeah, I was not just pretty sure, I was absolutely certain I was screwed. So now I did some more research and found out that yes, I can delete the entire thing with a single button. All I got to do is say, yes, I want to delete all my channel. And I'm thinking, geez, that's really dumb. Now, even if I did delete the channel on YouTube, I have all the videos because it's, when you're making a video, except this one is not recorded. It's recorded on YouTube. It's not recorded on any device that I own. It's kind of like the information coming from all the kids watching it. I see you over there, Johnny. Get back in your bedroom and stop watching the darn show. You've got your video games, go play those. You can't be on this thing because you're under 13. Can't be watching. You'll get me in trouble. At least you will after December 31st. So, realizing that my life is in the hands of Johnny, because if Johnny wants to look at the channel, he's going to. And Mom's going to give him the phone so he'll stop complaining that he can't talk to his friends. And Johnny will log in, even though he's only 6, he'll log in and go right over to old Sneelock's because he likes to see the tools. I remember how I was when I was 6 years old. I wanted to play with Dad's tools. That's why he gave me old tools to start with. I was picking up his drill motor and drilling holes in the ground. Not a good thing. Electric drill motor in the hands of a 6-year-old? Nah. Gave me a brace and bit. I drilled holes in everything. There wasn't a fence post safe for 20 miles. Well, okay. There wasn't a fence post safe in the yard. There will have to be a big lawsuit. Yep. There certainly will have to be a big lawsuit. But I can't afford a big lawsuit. Heck, I can't afford spending any more than $10 a week on props for the YouTube channel. So, as of December 31st, I'm not going to delete the channel. What I am going to do is I'm going to put everything to private. That means that only people who have the address can go see it. Now, there's an opportunity there. I don't exactly know how that would work. Whether I could hand out the address to people, if that would, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a congressman. I'm not a member of the FTC gang, cabal, group, whatever they call themselves. But I do know that I can put them to private and then they can't be seen by anybody unless I give them the address. So that will protect me. Now what do I do then? I've got the channel sitting there. Nobody can see it. Well, they'll be able to see that I have a channel, but it'll be like any other channel that doesn't have any content. It'll say everything's private. But that does give me the opportunity to come back in 6 months and look at the situation again. Well, you know me. I'm going to look at it every day for the next 6 months. And if I see that it's coming around to where I can come back again, I'll flip the switch and make it so it's not private. That's what I like about that. If I set it to private, I can flip another switch and just open it all up like it never left. So if YouTube is here in 6 months, let's see, that would be about July of 2020, I might be back. If not, then it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed talking to everybody. Each one of you guys has contributed something to the show just by being here. The guys who comment, thank God for you. Without that, I would have given up long ago because it's like standing in the backyard yelling at the moon. You don't know if anybody can hear you. So the comments mean that, yeah, okay, I was getting through to somebody. And asking the questions, that was wonderful. It might be an overreaction. Yes, it might be. I'll give you that. I have been wrong before, and I will certainly be wrong again. The only thing I keep thinking of is, I remember back in, and I think I've told this story a couple of dozen times, but I'll tell it again just for the sake of doing it. Back in 1979, the IRS, seeking to alleviate some of the problems for the people in the country, said, deduct everything you can deduct. And I said, well, how do I know what I can deduct? And they said, well, just deduct it. And if you're wrong, we'll fix it. Sounded good to me. I mean, it was the government, right? It was the IRS, the people who were never supposed to let anybody know anything about what was on your income tax return, because that was all private information between you and the IRS. People in the IRS could see it, but no one else. Couldn't be subpoenaed, couldn't be nothing. Nobody could get to it. Yeah, that worked. But anyways, they said, yeah, just deduct it. It doesn't matter. If it's wrong, we'll fix it. Well, that was 1979. Long about 1985, they came and said, we're going to audit you. Okay. Now, my wife is an accountant now, and she was a straight A student in college. She was a very smart woman. So she always did the taxes because, to be honest, I suck at taxes. I don't like doing them. Could I figure it out? Possibly. Would I make mistakes on it? I think I already talked about how I made mistakes and will do again. Yeah, it's pretty much a normal thing for me to make a mistake. So she always did the taxes. Before we got married, I went to H&R Block and had them do the taxes. I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. So they said, well, everything's fine, except back in 1979, you had a deduction for a screen door. We're going to disallow it. And I thought, it's okay, we'll fix it. $4,000 later, fines and fees and penalties, I was clear with the IRS. Yeah, I understood the IRS really well. That's one mistake I won't make twice. Just because they tell you, oh no, we won't do anything. That's what a cow puts out the back end. Yep, that is definitely excrement of the bovine variety. Whenever the government tells you, oh, don't worry about it, start worrying. Am I overreacting? I'll never know until either something happens and I say, ha, I missed it. Or they just walk away and forget about it, just like that pile of PCB-laden dirt that's still sitting somewhere waiting to be taken care of by the EPA. So, just because we haven't done anything today doesn't mean we won't do anything tomorrow. And like the IRS says, we got 7 years we can go back. How far back can the FTC go? I don't know. Well, I'm not in violation of any law until January 1st. On January 1st, I have to comply with COPPA. Up until then, all I have to do is comply with YouTube terms of service. And quite frankly, the only thing they can do is say, okay, you don't have a channel anymore. Scares the hell out of me, doesn't it? Don't think so. Pretty much told me I'm not going to have a channel anymore after January 1st. Because if I have a channel after January 1st, I'll be open to whatever lawyer thinks is a good time to have a free drink and a payment on the Mercedes. So, yeah, January 1st, we're going to dry up. Like I say, in 6 months, if things haven't gone bad, or somebody has come up with a way to put a bell on the cat, I might come back. Can't guarantee anything, guys, because until they give me solid, repeatable results, that's one of those scientific method things. I'm an engineer. I want to be able to repeat the results before I say that the experiment is successful. just because I got the horse to sing one note doesn't mean he's going to do an area. So that's pretty much it, guys. I wanted to take a few minutes, and I think I probably talked your ears off. And I know I've got 2 hinges mounted, and I'm going to have to go on and do something else on this toolbox, or I'll never have it done by December 31st to show you what it looks like. Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate all your thoughts and ideas, and love to have this happen again. Now, we may do more live broadcasts. Live broadcasts are easy. I don't have to edit anything. And all you have to do is be patient enough for me to get the camera started and wander around doing all the things that I'm doing. So I'm going to shut off the phone, and you'll see my smiling face for a few minutes, and then it'll go away. Thanks a lot, guys.